There's a strange little ritual happening on the streets of New York. Grown adults queuing for hours, hiring strangers to stand in line for them, clutching screenshots and spreadsheets, all for the chance to buy a coat or a sweater they once thought impossible to own. At first glance, it's a fad, a viral moment on TikTok. But if we look closer, the Rose sample sale reveals something much more urgent about luxury today. How scarcity, psychology, and price signals have quietly rewritten the meaning of value. The Row was born out of a very specific idea of luxury: quiet, refined, deliberate. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen designed for people who wanted the glamour of elegance without the punctuation of logos. The brand's language has always been understated. Neutral palettes, impeccable drape, pieces that read effortless because they were, in reality, engineered with an obsessive attention to fit and fabric. That reputation is why the sample sale landed with such seismic force. To see pieces discounted 70 to 80%, a coat that once retailed for $5,250 offered at $1,300, sweaters that began at $1,290 sliding to $312, is to see the cathedral door open for anyone with a credit card and a little stamina. So why did people wait? Part of the answer is pure math, the anchoring effect. If a sweater is presented to you as $1,450 and then slashed to $312, your brain experiences a sense of gain. Even if $312 is still a lot, it feels like a bargain relative to the astronomical anchor. Anchors are powerful. They make you reframe what worth means in an instant. But anchoring only explains part of the crowd psychology. There's also FOMO, scarcity and social proof, the very ingredients brands manufacture when they want attention. Social media amplifies every triumph. Footage of triumphant hauls, close-ups of buttery cashmere, TikTok showing the total saved. That feed becomes a loop. Seeing others rejoice triggers the urge to participate. Buying becomes less about the clothes and more about inclusion in a cultural moment. I was there. I took part. I scored. The sale no longer functions purely as commerce. It becomes a social right. And then there's the more uncomfortable truth. These discounts expose a perennial contradiction inherent in quiet luxury. The Row sells a cultivated aesthetic of understatement, but its price point always set it apart, creating a ritual of exclusivity. A sample sale, dramatic discounting on carefully curated pieces, punctures that mystique. It reveals that opacity and inaccessibility were not purely about craft, but also about positioning. Suddenly, exclusivity is negotiable. That destabilization feels both like democratization, more people can touch the brand, and like dilution. The aura that made the brand so desirable in the first place takes a hit. Let's talk about quality. Some commentators insist that the Row's craftsmanship justifies its original price, and in many cases that is true. Fabrics, drape, cut. These matter. A well-made piece can outlive 5 trend cycles, but quality is not simply a price tag. It's a measurable relationship between materials, construction, and expected lifespan. When a coat that once cost $5,250 can be legitimately sold for $1,300 at a sample sale, two truths coexist. 1, the brand values margin and positioning, and 2, the market recognizes different tiers of value. The Rose sample sale shows that price is partly narrative. The house created a story of exceptional worth, then offered pieces at levels that invite verification. Does the item still feel worth it when the price changes? For many buyers, the answer will come down to wear and care, not aspiration. We also need to think about consumer economics. One shopper's haul, $6,000 spent and over $20,000 saved against original retail, sounds like a victory. For that buyer, a sample sale is a pathway into a closet that once felt exclusive. For others, seeing such markdowns seeds a doubt. If these pieces are discounted so heavily, were they ever worth full price? The sale signals that the primary market and the discount market can coexist, and that fact complicates long-term perceptions of value. It's an elegant marketing paradox. Sample sales can convert aspirational visitors into loyal full-price customers, but they can also train smart buyers to wait. On the brand strategy side, sample sales are clever. They clear inventory, manage seasonal shifts, and create fresh demand spikes. They also reward those with liquidity and timing, the classic marketplace for access. But the optics are delicate. A brand anchored in quiet, artisanal prestige risks being read as inconsistent if it regularly runs massive sales. The Row's decision to stage a major sale is not an accident. It's a strategic choice that signals how the house balances exclusivity and commercial realities. And there's a labour and ethics angle we can't ignore. Long waits, line sitters and overnight queues have become an informal gig economy. People are monetizing access in ways that reveal a new market. Being first in line is commodified. The spectacle of labour lines up against the rituals of luxury, an odd mirror where the invisible hands of fashion now paid in the dollars of line sitters. It's an image of modern consumption that raises real questions about who benefits from these events and who is exploited. Psychologically, sample sales also expose cognitive dissonance. Buyers tell themselves they purchased items because of craftsmanship, while a more honest motive may be the social thrill. It's not shameful. Humans are meaning machines, and buying is one way we narrate ourselves. But the clarity is important. Shoppers should understand whether they are buying to complete a wardrobe thoughtfully or to capture a moment. The former builds timeless value. The latter builds an impressive feed. What does this mean for the future of the Row and for quiet luxury writ large? Sample sales democratize access and create buzz. They might serve as intelligent funnels for customers who will later pay full price for future collections. But if those funnels are too frequent or too public, the essential mystique evaporates. Quiet luxury depends on a certain paradox, visible invisibility. Once that balance tips toward visibility for urgency's sake, the house needs to re-anchor its narrative in craft, customer experience, and proof of value. So what should a discerning buyer do? First, assess intention. Buy because a piece fills a practical gap in your wardrobe and you love it for years, not because of the thrill of the discount. Second, inspect materials and construction. A Row sweater that feels dense, with handwork that rewards touch, will show its value over time. One that feels thin will reveal itself in months. Third, think long-term usage rather than acquisition adrenaline. A quiet piece that integrates into your life is a triumph. A closet full of discounted impulse buys is not. Finally, there is a larger industry lesson here. Sample sales are market signals. Tiny pulses telling us that the modes of scarcity and value are under stress. The Row's sale is not an anomaly. It's a symptom of an ecosystem trying to reconcile brand prestige with modern commerce. The healthiest brands will treat these moments as opportunities to educate customers about craft, to invest in clarity around pricing, and to protect the atelier work that justifies premium costs. The sample sale tells us that quiet luxury is not dead. It reveals, however, that its grammar is changing. If the future of refined dressing wants to survive, it must do two things at once: prove why it asks for premium and make space for genuine access without eroding the authenticity that made it valuable. Because once customers feel smart about their choices, when quality matches story, they will return. And that is the deepest quiet luxury, making pieces that win loyalty, not just headlines. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all this, that the illusion of quiet luxury isn't as quiet as it pretends to be. The Row built its identity on discretion, restraint, and craftsmanship, but a viral sample sale with hundreds of people waiting overnight reveals the tension between exclusivity and exposure. When everyone on TikTok is filming the same tote bags and cashmere sweaters, it stops being about the product and becomes about access, validation, and belonging. People weren't just buying clothes at the Row's sale, they were buying proximity to a world they admire, or at least what they think that world represents. But once you strip away the celebrity, the minimalist branding, and the quiet marketing, what's left? A pair of trousers that still costs $400, made from materials that don't necessarily justify that price. It's not that the Row is fake or unworthy, it's that luxury has become a mirror reflecting what we want to believe about ourselves. And sometimes that reflection is distorted. This moment is more than a viral fashion event. It's a cultural pulse check. People are starting to question what luxury actually means when even the most exclusive brands are discounting, chasing attention, and trying to stay relevant in an algorithm-driven world. The idea of if you know is slowly dying because now everyone knows, and when everyone knows, exclusivity loses its meaning. Maybe the real luxury today, not needing to prove anything to anyone, because when the hype fades and the lines disappear, that's what remains: substance. So the question isn't really, was the rose sample sale worth it? It's, what are we really chasing?